What would you do if something was watching you through your bedroom window? Not a person, not an animal, something in between. Something that walked on two legs when it thought no one was looking, but dropped to all fours when it knew it was being watched. My name is David. I'm 36 years old now. But when I was 10 years old, in the summer of 1998, my family moved into a house in rural Texas. We only lived there for 6 months. This is the story of why we left, and why, to this day, my father sleeps with his bedroom door locked and a shotgun within reach. The house sat on the very edge of Clearwater, Texas, a small town in the coastal plains where everyone knew everyone, where Friday night football was religion, and where nothing interesting ever happened. Until we moved to Oleander Street. The house itself was old, built sometime in the 1940s, all weathered clapboard siding painted a faded yellow that had probably been bright once but now just looked tired. It sat on a large corner lot with an enormous backyard, the kind of yard kids dream about, big enough to play baseball, build forts, run until you collapsed in the grass. The property was enclosed on all sides by fencing. On the left side, facing the neighbors, was a 6-foot privacy fence, solid wood planks that blocked any view between our yard and theirs. The other 3 sides, the back and right side, were enclosed by chain link fence, about 4.5 feet high. You could see through it easily. Beyond the back fence was a narrow grass alley, lit by a single street light that casts long shadows at night, and then more houses. The layout of the house was typical for its age, except for one thing: the back bedroom. Originally, it had been a sunroom, one of those enclosed porches people added in the 40s and 50s to enjoy the outdoors without the bugs. At some point, a previous owner had converted it into a bedroom, but they'd left all the original windows. Floor-to-ceiling windows, all along the entire back wall. During the day, it was beautiful. Natural light flooded in. You could lie in bed and watch birds, see the clouds roll by, feel connected to the outside world. At night, though, those windows became something else entirely. My younger brother, Tommy, and I shared that room. He was 8, I was 10. The room wasn't very big, so our furniture options were limited. My bed ended up against the window wall, my headboard literally pressed against the glass. Tommy's bed was about 8 feet away, against the opposite wall, with the foot of his bed facing the windows. Which meant when he lay in bed, he was looking directly at my bed and at the windows behind me. For the first few weeks, we loved that room. We'd stay up late, talking about Nintendo games, arguing about which Power Ranger was the coolest, making plans for the massive treehouse we were definitely going to build in the backyard. The windows didn't bother us. We were kids. We felt invincible. That changed on a Tuesday night in August. It was late, maybe 11 p.m., which felt like midnight when you're 10 years old. Our parents had gone to bed an hour earlier, and Tommy and I were doing that thing kids do, talking in the dark about nothing important, fighting sleep because sleep meant the day was over. I was lying on my back, staring at the ceiling, listening to Tommy ramble about something. I don't even remember what anymore. Then, suddenly, he went quiet. Complete silence. "Tommy?" I said. "You fall asleep?" Nothing. Then I heard it. A whisper. Shaky, barely audible. "David." "What? I can't hear you." "David." His voice was trembling now. "Dude, speak up." "Don't move." His voice cracked on the words. "Don't move and be quiet." I rolled over to look at him, annoyed. "Bitch, why? What are you—" That's when I saw his face. Even in the darkness, I could see his expression. Eyes wide, face pale. He wasn't joking. He was pointing behind me, at the windows. My stomach dropped. Slowly, so slowly, I sat up and turned around. And I saw it. A massive dog head, right there, pressed against the glass, less than a foot from where my own head had just been lying on my pillow. It was huge, bigger than any dog I'd ever seen. German Shepherds were big dogs. Rottweilers were big dogs. This thing made them look like puppies. The head alone was the size of my entire torso. Its face was pressed so close to the glass that I could see condensation forming from its breath. Its eyes, Christ, those eyes were reflecting the faint light from the alley streetlight. Yellow, green, unblinking. It was staring directly at me. We were nose to nose. Just a single pane of glass and maybe 10 inches of empty air between us. I screamed. I'm not proud of it, but I was 10 years old and I screamed like I've never screamed before or since. The thing reacted instantly. It ducked, actually ducked, like it knew it had been spotted, and bolted to the side of the yard. I watched through the window as it ran toward the chain-link fence, and then, impossibly, it jumped. Cleared the 4.5-foot fence in a single leap without breaking stride. It disappeared into the darkness beyond. Within seconds, my father burst into the room, my mother right behind him. What happened? What's wrong? I was hyperventilating, pointing at the window, unable to form words. Something at the window. There was... Tommy was frozen on his bed, eyes still locked on the window. My dad looked out into the backyard, saw nothing, looked back at us. What did you see? A huge dog. It was right there, looking at us. Dad exchanged a glance with Mom. That look parents give each other when they think their kid had a nightmare but don't want to dismiss them outright. "Stay here," he said. He disappeared for maybe 30 seconds, then returned holding his shotgun. A 12-gauge Remington he'd inherited from his own father. "I'm going to check the yard." "Michael, don't," my mother started, but he was already gone. We waited. Mom stood in the doorway, arms crossed, looking between us and the window. Tommy and I didn't move. After what felt like forever, but was probably only 5 minutes, Dad came back inside. "Nothing out there. No dog, no tracks, nothing." He looked at me. "David, did you have a bad dream?" "No, it was there. It was right." "Tommy, did you see anything?" Tommy hesitated, looked at me, then shook his head. I don't know. Maybe? It was dark." My heart sank. He was lying. Protecting himself, probably, not wanting to seem scared. Dad sighed. "All right. Probably just shadows from the streetlight. You boys need to go to sleep. School tomorrow." "Dad, I'm not making it up." "I didn't say you were. I said it was probably shadows. Now go to sleep, both of you." He and Mom left, closing the door behind them. I looked at Tommy. "Why'd you say you didn't see it?" "I don't want them to think I'm a baby." "But you did see it, right?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I saw it." We didn't sleep much that night. About an hour later, maybe a little more, I was still wide awake. I'd begged my parents to let me sleep in the living room. Hell, I would have slept in the bathroom at that point. Anywhere but that room with those windows. But Mom had said no. "You're not sleeping on the couch because you had a nightmare. You're 10 years old. Go to bed." So there I was, lying in my bed, staring at those goddamn windows. Tommy wasn't sleeping either. After a while, he whispered, "David, "Can I come sleep in your bed?" "Yeah." He got up and climbed in with me. We both sat with our backs against the headboard, covers pulled up to our chins, like they could protect us from anything. We stared out into the backyard, illuminated by that single streetlight in the alley. And then we saw it again. It came walking along the outside of the chain-link fence, on all fours this time, moving slowly, deliberately. The fence came up to about mid-shoulder on it. This thing was enormous. Tommy grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. We watched as it sniffed along the ground outside the fence, moving in slow circles, like a dog tracking a scent. Except something was wrong about the way it moved. Dogs move fluidly, natural. This thing moved carefully, calculated, like it was thinking about each movement. After circling for maybe 30 seconds, it hopped over the fence into our backyard. Effortlessly, like the fence wasn't even there. It walked across the grass toward our window. Tommy's grip on my arm tightened so hard I thought my bone would snap. The thing reached the window and stood up. Not fully upright, but higher than it should have been on all fours. It pressed its face to the glass again, those eyes, searching, looking directly into the room, at us.
"Fuck this," Tommy whispered. He moved to get out of bed. And that's when the world exploded. A deafening bang shook the entire house. A flash of light, muzzle flash, I'd realize later, lit up the backyard like lightning. The thing at our window jerked sideways, knocked off balance. But it didn't fall, didn't cry out, didn't collapse. It turned and ran. And when I say ran, I mean it moved. Faster than anything that size should be able to move. It sprinted the full length of the backyard, maybe 40 feet, hit the back chain-link fence, and jumped. Not over the fence, the grass alley, and the fence of the yard behind ours. A jump of at least 15, maybe 20 feet. It cleared everything, landed in the neighbor's yard, and kept running, up the side of their house and into the darkness beyond. Gone. We heard Dad screaming from outside, "Get inside! Get inside now!" Footsteps pounding, the side door slamming, the lock clicking. Dad burst into our room, shotgun still in his hands, eyes wild. "Pack a bag, now! We're leaving!" We spent that night in a motel about 20 miles away. Mom kept insisting we were overreacting, that it was probably just a big dog, that Michael had scared it off and it wouldn't come back. But Dad wouldn't hear it. He wanted to move immediately, pack up everything and leave that day. "We're not going back there," he said. Mom, practical as always, pointed out we'd signed a lease. We'd lose our deposit. Where would we even go on such short notice? They argued for 2 days. Eventually a compromise. We'd stay, but we'd get better locks, motion sensor lights in the backyard, and Dad would keep his shotgun loaded and within reach at all times. We moved back to the house, but it was different now, tense. Dad wouldn't talk about what he'd seen, not to Mom anyway. But about a week later, I worked up the courage to ask him about it. We were in the garage. He was organizing tools, trying to keep himself busy. I sat on an old milk crate and finally said it. "Dad, why did you come back outside that night, after you checked the first time and said it was nothing?" He stopped what he was doing, stared at a wrench in his hand for a long time. Then he set it down and looked at me. "You really want to know?" "Yeah." He sighed. "It was Tommy." "Tommy? When you screamed and we came in, you looked scared. But scared like you'd had a nightmare. Pale, shaking. But kids get scared. That's normal." He paused. "But Tommy? Tommy looked different. He was white as a sheet.
couldn't take his eyes off that window. And your brother, he's never been the type to make stuff up. He's never been scared like that before. Not of the dark, not of monsters under the bed, nothing. So you came back to check? I went to bed, but I couldn't stop thinking about how scared he looked. So I got up, grabbed my gun, and figured I'd sneak around the side of the house, just to make sure. I thought maybe someone was peeking in your windows, some creep. I was going to scare him off. And I saw it. His voice dropped. I was standing by the corner of the house. Hadn't even made it to the backyard yet. And I see this thing come walking along the fence. The streetlight was on, so I could see it pretty clear. He shook his head. At first, I thought, okay, big dog. Biggest dog I've ever seen, but still. But then I noticed the way it was moving. It was crouched, walking on its hind legs, but crouched low, like it was trying to stay hidden, but still needed to walk upright. My skin prickled. When it got to the fence, it stood up a little more and hopped over, landed on all fours and walked toward your window. But even on all fours, something about its body was wrong. Its front legs were too long. Its shoulders were too wide. It didn't move like a dog. What did it move like? Like a person wearing a dog costume. Except I could tell it wasn't a costume. The fur was real. The way the muscles moved under the skin was real. He looked directly at me. And the worst part? Before it jumped into the yard, it was walking in circles, face down, like it was sniffing the ground. But it wasn't sniffing. Its eyes were on your window the whole time. It was watching you while pretending to sniff, like it was acting, playing a part. A chill ran down my spine. When it walked to your window and stood up straighter, I could see its full body. And David, I've had dogs my whole life. My dad trained hunting dogs. I know how dogs move, how they think. Everything about this thing was wrong. That's when you shot it? Yeah. I fired from maybe 15 feet away. Hit it square in the ribs, just below the left foreleg, right where the heart and lungs are. A 12-gauge slug at that range should have dropped it instantly. But it didn't. It barely flinched. Stumbled sideways like I'd shoved it. Then it ran. Jumped that fence, the alley, and the next fence like it was nothing. 20 feet easy, and it was gone. He picked the wrench back up, turned it over in his hands. That's what scared me, David. Not that it was big, not that it was in our yard, but that it was smart. It was thinking, planning. And when I shot it, when I hit it with something that should have killed anything, it just left. Why didn't you tell Mom? Because she wouldn't believe me. Hell, I barely believe me. But I know what I saw. We didn't talk about it again after that. We stayed in that house for 6 more months. Mom refused to break the lease, insisted we were safe, that it had just been a wild animal passing through. But it was never the same. Dad installed motion sensor floodlights all around the backyard, kept his shotgun loaded by the bed, started sleeping lighter, waking up at every sound. Tommy and I begged to switch rooms, moved to literally any other bedroom in the house, but there were only 3 bedrooms, and Mom insisted we needed our own space. So we stayed in that back room with those goddamn windows. We bought blackout curtains, thick, heavy ones that blocked out all the light. We kept them closed every night, but it didn't help. We knew those windows were there. We knew something could be watching from the other side, and we'd never know. I started having nightmares, not about monsters or creatures, but about waking up and seeing the curtains open, and that thing standing there, watching me sleep. Tommy wet the bed for the first time since he was 4. Mom took him to a doctor who said it was stress. But she refused to connect it to what had happened. Dad started staying up later and later. I'd wake up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom and see him sitting in the living room in the dark, shotgun across his lap, staring out the window. One night, about 3 months in, I asked him, "Do you think it's still out there?" He didn't look at me, just kept staring out into the darkness. "Yeah, I do." "Why hasn't it come back?" "Maybe it's waiting." "For what?" He finally looked at me then, and the expression on his face, tired, haunted, but determined, is something I'll never forget. For us to let our guard down. In February, 6 months after we'd moved in, Mom finally conceded. We broke the lease, lost the deposit, and moved across town to a different house. A house with small windows on the second floor, with neighbors close by and streetlights all around. Dad paid someone to come get our furniture from the back bedroom, refused to go back in there himself. We never talked about Oleander Street after that. It became one of those family things you just don't mention, like it never happened. I'm 36 years old. I have kids of my own now, and I've spent the last 26 years trying to understand what we saw. I've researched, read hundreds of accounts from people describing similar encounters, cryptid sightings, dogmen reports, skinwalker legends. The descriptions match. Something that looks like a massive wolf or dog, but moves wrong, walks on 2 legs when it thinks no one's watching, shows intelligence beyond any animal. Texas Hill Country and the coastal plains have dozens of reports. People who've seen something in the woods, near their property, watching from the tree line. Most people who see it never report it, because who would believe them? I know I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself. But I did see it. Tommy's side and Dad's side. 3 people, not 1, 3. And here's the thing that keeps me up at night. Dad hit that thing with a shotgun slug at close range, center mass, should have been lethal, and it ran away like nothing happened. Every few years, I drive back through Clearwater. I never stop, just drive past. The house on Oleander Street is still there, still that same faded yellow, but it looks more run down now, like it hasn't been maintained. I looked up the property records once, out of curiosity. The house has changed hands 7 times since we lived there. 7 times in 26 years. No one stays there long. I wonder if they see it too. If that thing, whatever it was, still comes back, still watches through those windows, still waits. Because the worst part isn't what we saw. It isn't even that it might have killed us. The worst part is that it was playing with us, walking in circles, pretending to sniff, watching to see if we'd notice. Like it was studying us, learning our patterns, testing our responses. Why? What was it looking for? And why, after Dad shot it, did it run away instead of attacking? Was it because it got what it wanted? Had it learned enough? Or was it just waiting for a better opportunity? My kids ask me sometimes why they can't have a bedroom with big windows. I tell them I like my privacy, that curtains are expensive, anything but the truth. Because how do you explain to your children that there are things in the world that shouldn't exist? That something might be watching, waiting, learning? That no lock, no fence, no shotgun might be enough? My father is 64 now. He still sleeps with his bedroom door locked, still keeps a gun within arm's reach. Last Thanksgiving, after a few drinks, he finally admitted something to me. I should have killed it. Even if I had to shoot it 10 times, I should have kept shooting until I knew it was dead. Dad, you hit it once. It ran away. That's what scares me. It ran away because it chose to, Not because it was hurt, not because it was afraid. It calculated that leaving was the better option. He looked at me. That means it's still out there, David, and it's still thinking. I wish I could say that I don't believe him. I wish I could say that 26 years of distance has made me skeptical, that I've convinced myself it was just a big dog or a bear or something explainable. But I can't, because I remember those eyes, yellow-green in the darkness, intelligent, aware, watching. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet and my family is asleep, I find myself staring out the window, looking for movement in the shadows, wondering if it ever followed us, wondering if it knows where we live now, and wondering what it will do if it decides to come back. Because something that smart, that deliberate, that patient, it doesn't forget. It just waits for the right moment. And I don't know if that moment has passed, or if it's still coming.
If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. This happened to me, to my brother, and to my father. 3 witnesses, 3 people who know what we saw was real. If you've had a similar experience, if you've seen something that walked wrong, moved wrong, watched you with intelligence that no animal should have, please share your story. You're not alone, and you're not crazy. Comment below if you've encountered something like this. And if you're out there in rural Texas or anywhere else where the darkness stretches deep and the woods are thick, be careful. Lock your doors, close your curtains, and if you see something watching, don't assume it's just a dog. If you enjoyed this story, if it unsettled you, made you think, made you check your windows, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. I share true horror stories, real encounters, and unexplained experiences that will make you question what's really out there in the dark. Stay safe, and remember, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it can't see you.